Hello and welcome to Witchcraft UK. My name's Storney. I'm the owner and founder of Witchcraft UK, and I'd like to welcome you to this very special edition, being Samhain today. For a lot of witches, pagans, a very special day as we celebrate it as a new turn of the wheel. For a lot of pagans and a lot of witches, it is the start of our new year, and although I do appreciate not all pagans or witches share the same thing, quite a lot of people do. I've been posting up on Facebook and other social media sites, and on them posts, I was sending out messages such as looking forward to Samhain, or as a lot of people call it, Halloween. And I got quite a lot of negative responses, quite surprising responses in some cases. People saying you're a hypocrite as a pagan for celebrating this date, and you name it. And that's really the reason for the message today. When I look back over the last turn of the wheel, the last year, it's been quite a turbulent year in many respects. I've got to meet a lot of new people, a lot of people within the pagan community, a lot of witches, and also other people who are really just getting into stuff. And although what I'm about to say has been going on for a while, it's really becoming quite prevalent now, in that there's, for me, quite a bit of a dark shadow and a darkness spreading throughout paganism, with many people not really understanding what they're talking about, but because of their egos and because of the ability just to create pages and groups on social media sites, they portray themselves as they know everything, and everybody should follow them. And this really is akin to how mainstream religions got started. We have to remember there's a difference between paganism and witchcraft, even though they're very closely associated in a lot of ways. We can see this effect in the magic within witchcraft itself. There's a lot of bigotry going on at the moment, and that's meaning that people come along and they don't accept the beliefs, the traditions and the ways of others. It seems to be, it has to be their way or no way at all, and they will go to all ends to very nastily discredit and ridicule people, if people don't follow what they're doing. And again, that's no different from what we see in mainstream religions, with preachers or vicars or whatever else, which will send people to damnation if they don't do what they tell them to do and everything else. And that simply isn't the way. It's not the pagan way to do things, and it's certainly not the way of the craft. But we're seeing it more and more, and I've certainly been, attacked quite a few times online for bringing up things, mentioning things, talking about things, and it really started earlier on in the year for me when I went to set up a moot in the local area. Before we even got the first moot up and running, which, to be honest, was quite successful, I was being hit by all directions by people coming in from the sidelines, people who'd never met me, making judgments about what I was trying to do, telling me I was competing with everybody else, telling me this is how you need to run a moot and this is what we expect. And I have to be honest, it was just people with nothing but purely ego-driven motives, not thinking about the bigger picture, which were doing quite a lot of damage. And I've done quite a lot of research over the last few years, having to retire early due to medical grounds. It has allowed me to sit back and really look at paganism, witchcraft, from a very sort of want to stand off you and look into what's going on, and also be, at the centre of things, trying to organise things. And again, one of the things which I've found is there's so many people out there who are now turning solitary, because they don't want to work with other people, because they feel they're going to be judged. And I certainly found this in our area. When I was putting out the information about the moot I was setting up, a lot of people said, yeah, it'd be absolutely great, we'd love to have something, but we go to these moots and everybody judges everybody else. And no, outwardly, when you talk to people from other moots, if they're in with the clique, they certainly say, no, that's not the case, everybody gets on really well, everybody does this. But the more you dig into it, the more you find out, you realise you do have these cliques of people, and things have got to be done the way they want it done, and there's no room for other people's beliefs or opinions to come in. And there's certainly a lot of horrible ridicule going on of people. And so based on that, I realise that people do want to come together, people do want to communicate, they do want to chat with like-minded people, but without all the politics going on about it. And I think one of the sad things which is going on is how one person, just because they've got a few thousand likes on Facebook or whatever else, can influence so many other people. In witchcraft, we have to remember that, and this is the important thing, and this is one of the aims of Witchcraft UK, this is one of the intentions, one of the aims we're setting out over the next year, is to get people to understand that as a witch, you are responsible for your own actions, and you are the one which has the power. When we're using witchcraft, some people will use their pagan traditions to shape the way that the witchcraft is performed, and that is absolutely fine, because it gives it a lot of energy and a lot of force. But the lines seem to have become very blurred between witchcraft and paganism, and we've got to remember they are two different things at the end of the day, even though they've got very, very close associations. Now, a witch doesn't create the energy which they use to change things. The energy is all around us all the time. We work more as conduits, where we take in the energy, we reshape, remodel that energy, and then we project it outwards to get the manifestations that we want, to get the results that we need. But it is you as a witch that does that. It's not the person on Facebook who tells you how it should be done. It's not from books and stuff like that. Yes, they can give us a lot of inspiration and a lot of knowledge how to do stuff, but at the end of the day, it boils down to you. And a spell is all about your own intentions as an individual and how you want to perform, getting that intention to manifest out there in the world. And what we've got to start looking at and start understanding, that it is you as an individual who does this. And if you get a very, very good coven, or coven as some people call them, and you bring a group of witches together and they all have the same modality, they all think along the same lines, they're all happy to work together, then yes, you get even more of a powerful creation. But what tends to be happening at the moment, we've got so many people who are just jumping on the bandwagon because paganism is becoming quite trendy today, who are just setting up groups. They have very, very little knowledge and very little experience. They're just good at writing posts. They often copy and paste from other people's information, and then they get followers, and it puts them on a false pedestal. They think they're very, very empowered, and they do have followers, and unfortunately it's the followers often that give them this power, because these people will do anything they can to gain control. They're egomaniacs, they're into bigotry, they're egomaniacs, and some of them unfortunately don't even realise they're actually doing this, but they get a lot of followers. And when somebody comes along and tries to sort of explain things in a fresh way, in a way that it should be, they feel these people are a threat, and so they go out to humiliate them, ridicule them, you name it. And the problem is, and the big sad factor is then other people who follow that person will join the bandwagon and also start doing the same. Now, my point is how can you judge somebody if you don't know them? You know, I never judge a book by its cover. When I meet somebody, okay, regardless of what other people have said about them, I will make my own formal judgment about them based on what I feel, based on what I see, because I know all of this goes on. But today we have so many people who are acting like other people in mainstream religions, who just do as the vicar or the priest says. Oh, they say that person's not very good, they say that person's dark, they say that person's has just read a book and that's all they know. And they jumped on the bandwagon and judged the person the same way. Well, that is certainly not being a genuine witch by any stretch of the imagination. As witches, you are individual people. And yes, you may belong to a coven, you may belong to a group, but it is still you at the end of the day that takes that intention in and manifests the change, and you are solely responsible for that. And all these people who are following these egomaniacs who just want to go out and get as many followers as they can and then ridicule anybody who doesn't follow them, all their followers, you're not being genuine witches by any stretch of the imagination, because you're judging people on something you don't know about. And this is a big darkness this is spreading at the moment, and we need to change this. We need to get back down to the grassroots of things. Being a witch is about being responsible for your own actions. It's about understanding the intentions, believing in what you believe in, not what somebody else tells you to believe in, not what other people in other groups say. Well, that's bad, that's wrong, that's right. They've got no right to tell you. And you will only gain the power as a genuine witch when you can stand alone and think things through for yourselves. And we have to understand as well that there is lightness and there is darkness. There's left, there's right, there's up, there's down. Witchcraft is also about balance. Now, I know a couple of people have messaged me and said, you seem to be promoting the Black Witchess quite a lot on your site, showing the videos. And yes, I'm doing it with the right intention, because there are other paths, there are darker sides. And if you look at the Black Witchess, she explains these very, very well. What we've found over the last sort of 20-30 years is we saw the new religion, the new tradition, Wicca, really start to take off. And yes, it's a beautiful religion, don't get me wrong, and I started out initially down that path because it is a great path to learn. There's a lot of information out there and it's a great path to get you started. But those who really sort of get into it and understand it will either then get very strict and very strong within Wicca and really understand the basics of it, or they'll either diversify and go down other paths because it doesn't quite meet what they want to do. But one of the big problems I've found with the Wicca tradition myself, and this is my own personal belief and it's nothing against Wicca out there in general, is it got infiltrated very much by the New Age movement, where people just want to give out positive. Whatever happens in their life, they must turn it into a positive. Ignore the negatives, suppress them, get rid of them. And yes, if the whole world was like that, that would be a fantastic world, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately the world isn't like that. And we do have to be careful when it comes to this balance. As a true, genuine witch, you do need to understand the darker sides, because one, you need to be able to defend yourself against them, and two, sometimes to restore a proper balance, you do have to turn to darker measures. As long as the intention is good in the first place, you can use the darker magic to reset the balance on things, and that is incredibly important. If you simply go through life ignoring the negatives, suppressing the negatives, looking the other way, it doesn't mean that these negatives go away. Yes, some will, of course they will. But if we keep suppressing negatives all the time, some don't. And they just build up and build up and build up until it gets to crisis point. And that can actually make people very, very poorly, because they cannot simply cope when things do start going wrong for them. You know, witchcraft isn't about being all pink and fluffy and loving. It'd be fantastic if it was, and for the majority of it is. A lot of us work in those realms, which does make for better intentions out there. You know, we work within healing realms, we work in getting rid of the negatives out there. You know, we're surrounded by the New World Order, the way our governments, the way the world is going at the moment. You know, we're on the brink of the Third World War once again, and things are very, very serious out there. And again, the problem is here, if you look at this from another angle, that's not being very well publicised because they want to keep it quiet. But when you look behind the scenes and you get these reports coming through from independent news sources, it is very serious out there. And what's happening at the moment, the mainstream media don't want people to know about what's going on. And that is going to really bite us hard, because it means we can't prepare for the eventuality of it. And when it does happen, we're all going to be left there starry-eyed, open mouth, saying, well, what do we do now? So the same thing, that's really the same thing which happens in witchcraft. If you always suppress anything you don't like around you, ignore it, it doesn't mean it's going away. It doesn't mean that people are out there practicing this, doing this stuff. If you don't accept it and you don't prepare yourself for it, it's going to hit you hard at some point, and you're not going to be prepared for it. So one of the main reasons in Witchcraft UK we're promoting the Black Witchess is so people can understand this other side, but properly understand it. It's not all about hexes and curses when you talk about the dark side. It's understanding the other side. A true witch really is always in a grey zone. You know, you see these people come up on Facebook and say, I'm a white witch, I only work for positive stuff. But we have to also understand, well, that might be right, that might be positive for you as an individual. It doesn't mean it's right and it's positive for me. The outcomes of what you're doing in your white world of positiveness may not be the best outcome for the whole of humanity, for want of a better word. So we have to understand this, and it's down to you as an individual. So the aim with Witchcraft UK over the next year or so is to provide information, knowledge, resources, so that people can just come in, they can read it. If they don't like it, that's absolutely fine. If they don't believe in certain things that we publish out there, that's absolutely fine. That is your choice, and we actually prefer that, because it means you are making your own informed decisions. But what I do hope happens is that some of these sheeple which are out there, who just simply follow somebody on Facebook because they've got a lot of likes, they call themselves, you know, pagans, they call themselves witches, they're not really. I hope that some of them followers decide to look beyond that, look out there and find out who they really are. Now, I know there's quite a few people who see me as a threat with what I'm doing in terms of this, but I'm happy with that. I will get a lot of ridicule, again, I know that because basically I'm putting out people's little bonfires. These people who come along, got a lot of followers, don't really know what they're talking about. They absolutely hate me. But the fact is, what we want to do is try and engage with people who follow them and say, no, look, you've got to take responsibility for yourself. Don't always listen to this person. They may say a lot of nice and a lot of good things on the face value, but behind the scenes they've got completely different intentions. Go and learn yourself. I'm not asking you to follow me, I'm just asking you to go out there, find some information out for yourself, follow your own true beliefs. Don't judge a person based on the judgment of somebody else. Have the power, have the courage to do a judgment based on your own perceptions and your own information that you pick up. And I think what we will find as people do start to break away from these egomaniacs, these bigots and everything else, is that people will see who they really are, and they will just crumble away. They will just turn to dust, go away and go and try and do something else. So I know this is a little bit of a negative message probably to be sending out, but I believe it's a positive message, because what we want to do is encourage people to learn about themselves. Being a witch is about you being self-empowered. The clue is in the name there, self-empowered. Not somebody else empowering you or making you believe they're empowering you. That isn't the way it works. You are self-empowered. You become self-enlightened. You truly believe in what you're doing because they are your ideas, they are your perceptions, and they are your core beliefs. That is where the true power comes from. And people are not following that at the moment, and more people are letting other people lead who really don't understand what they're doing. And you know, we've got to stop this from happening. We cannot allow this corruption, this toxic corruption, this conditioning. Society is conditioned to think in these negative ways. Somebody else takes responsibility, somebody else does this, somebody else does that, somebody else is going to do it for me. Just listen to the lies and stay asleep. It's time to wake up. It's time to get motivated. It's time to think for yourself and do for yourself. And that's where the power lies. So at that point I'm going to wrap this up, but I do wish you a very happy Samhain and give you all my love and blessings out there, and I look forward to the new year ahead, and I look forward to hearing from you if you wish to get in contact. And I'd also just like to thank some very close friends of mine, and we've been having a few parties over the last couple of days and stuff to celebrate. But I'd like to thank them for sticking with me, for supporting me, encouraging me, and also, you know, for telling me you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing, keep it going. You know, your support has been so much to me, so I thank you for that. So, happy Samhain, blessings, and I'll speak to you soon.